Hello, and welcome to the BeewolfMMA YouTube channel. Do you enjoy gambling? Do you enjoy sports betting more specifically? Sports betting on MMA or UFC fights, to be exact. I think that this is a sweeping epidemic that has corrupted our sport, maybe for the last couple of years. And again, I'm nobody's daddy. I don't have any say over what you do and don't do. Chances are you are a man, based off of my demographics, and you're a grown man, and you are capable of making your own autonomous decisions. But look at all these websites. I'm sure that at one time or another, at a certain point of you using the internet, scrolling on your phone, gooning even, you've seen advertisements for one of these websites, and they told you, spend $5 and get a free $100, even during UFC events. And on the surface level, it sounds like a really good deal. I will give this company $5. I will make a bet. They will give me $100 in, which I could make potentially more of a profit in. But what's overlooked by many people who see this as a way to earn more disposable income is the fact that you're consuming a substance. Sports betting is essentially the same thing as hitting the cherry ice. It releases dopamine in your brain. As you place the parlay, you think, man, this $1 could be $30 by the end of tonight. All I need is for Neil Magny to beat Carlos Prates. All I need is for Kaya Sakura to knock out Alexandre Pantoja. All I need is for Hyun-Sung Park to KO Tatsuro Taira in round 1. I love you all, and I've made this no secret on my channel. I want to see us all rise above the temptation and the base and soulless impulses of our animalistic nature. And it starts here. It starts here with this video that you're watching right now. Congratulations for clicking on. If I do my job properly, by the end of this watch, you will understand how to escape the body triangle that is online sports betting related to a sport that we all just love to watch in general, even whenever there's no money involved. So let's peel back each layer of this onion that made it so pluses and minuses mean the opposite of what they should actually mean as you're assembling your parlays. And I'm going to take you back to a time whenever that didn't even mean anything to you. A time where we watched Lauren Murphy versus Roxanne Modafferi just out of sheer love of the game. So let's go ahead and get into this one. The first is going to be addressing Stake.com and the prevalence that it has on not even just the UFC, as they are the official betting partner of the organization, but just on the internet in general. From the time that I was in middle school, I had always been active in following on my personal accounts meme pages. And they would post funny photos, top text, bottom text. I came up in the internet era of Rage Comics and Bad Luck Brian and Doge, before it was adopted by the crypto community, MLG memes. I also remember in high school, this evolved into the dank memes era with the highly bass boosted. It all began with the platform Kick. Aiden Ross is the frontrunner of this platform, and him as a streamer has been very influential on Dana White, and they have collaborated on streams. I'm sure he is a shareholder in whatever the UFC has going on, because for some reason, Dana White himself keeps on making appearances in the Misfits boxing league that Aiden Ross hosts on his Kick website. He's pretty much the chief guy on the platform. Stake.com is the entity that funds the Kick.com streaming platform. There would be no Kick.com without Stake.com to fund the entire endeavor. And it's already bad enough that I have to see Stake.com ads all over my phone for as long as I want to partake in dank memes like I used to as a boy. And I've been moving away from it just because it's getting to be a tad bit annoying at this point. I'm forced to look at this logo in the corner of every single octagon that the UFC hosts an event in, and on the canvas itself. I find it problematic, but it's also good to understand why it is a problem. The prevalence of Stake.com at the forefront of our attention at these UFC events, because it's plastered everywhere in the octagon, it makes it evident that the organization has truly learned nothing in the past from their previous betting scandals, specifically the ones that involved James Krause with abcbetting.ag and his Discord server that had about 2,000 people in it that he was collecting about $100,000 a month from because there was a $50 pay-to-play fee. James Krause was a coach at the time of Glory MMA, and different fighters like Brandon Moreno, Grant Dawson, Miles Johns, to name a few others. Tim Elliott and the guys who we need to focus on right now, Jeff Molina, and also Derek Minner. It's nobody's fault from the perspective of James Krause for getting into sports betting before it was regulated to do as an active member of the roster or as a coach with fighters that you represented. It actually kind of made sense. Granted, we know that UFC fighters start out fighting for 12 and 12. The issue is with the medium itself. Gambling is easy to corrupt people with. It's easy to be corrupted by. If you are a UFC coach and you know that your fighter has an injury, you may not disclose this injury and you may bet against your fighter or tell your homies, you know what, we're going to bet against my fighter tonight because he has a bum knee and he's going to go out and he's going to lose this fight via round 1 knockout because I'm going to tell him that left knee that's hurt, throw that kick, throw a body kick with that leg as soon as the fight starts. And however it feels, just react. And if you get TKO'd, let it happen. And that's exactly what happened in Darrick Minner versus Shailen Nerdenbricke. And injuries happen. In MMA, injuries happen. That is evident to all of us. We all know that injuries happen in this sport. But in the event that an injury happens and it is a fighter that is coached by a guy who also has the interest in making money through betting, he may not be as willing to disclose the injury for one or to tell the fighter to not fight, just so that they can make a little bit extra Skrilla. It's very possible that for the Nerdenbricke fight, Darrick Minner made more money to lose this match and probably what was the shortest fight of his career than he would have made in a hard-fought 15-minute decision where he did actually score a victory over Nerdenbricke. The UFC issued a ban to both James Krause and Darrick Minner for the fact that they didn't disclose the injury on the pre-fight questionnaire, the medical questionnaire going into the fight. They're supposed to say if there's something wrong with the fighter. They failed to do that. And following this, an investigation led to new rule changes being passed in the UFC where at the end of 2022, you were no longer allowed to place bets as a coach on your fighters or as a fighter on yourself, which kind of makes sense. This kind of reminds me of the Pete Rose scandal in baseball. And that dude, he lost out on a lot because he also got caught up in this huge betting scandal. Jeff Molina is a fighter who is very close to James Krause in Glory MMA. And after it was announced that James Krause would no longer be able to place bets on his own fighters, Jeff Molina had pulled out of his fight with Jimmy Flick and was replaced by Charles Johnson in this matchup. This could be a key indicator that Jeff Molina had also been suffering from an injury that he planned to not disclose, just so that he could lose on purpose and make money. But this is all speculation. Just like a video that I'd seen by the MMA YouTuber named Vampiric Legs had been released, and it was detailing how Jason Herzog has been acting like a sussy baka lately, as far as making concessions for certain fighters to lose in specific ways, or calling fights at certain times in accordance with betting lines. This was seen in the Taliesin Teixeira fight with Derek Lewis. Well, that could have been ruled a DQ victory for Derek Lewis. Or in the Yao Jianan versus Zhang Weili fight, where Yan Jianan was choked out conscious at the end of a round. Jason Herzog slaps her on the face to wake her up, and then she goes back to the corner and they keep on fighting. Or whenever they're in Paris, Imavov is fighting Jared Cannonier. Betting lines are heavily favoring an Imavov finish in the round where it did take place. And so he doesn't wait for Jared Cannonier to go fully out before he calls the fight. All of this is just speculation. In the modern age of technology, we do have the analytics to show a direct correlation with these claims, no matter how outlandish they may seem. So I raise the question, is this just an instance of scapegoating? Is James Krause really guilty? Nobody goes into the cage and fights healthy. There's a good chance that, granted, we know that Derek Lewis fought on a torn ACL for years before he got it fixed after the Junior Dos Santos fight. It's very possible that Darrick Minner just thought, I'm gonna be fine. And he wasn't. It was a very questionable game plan as he came out and threw that hurt leg at his opponent the first 2 strikes. And he TKO'd himself. But the way that they went to address this issue was co-signing a deal with a digital betting verification client named US Integrity. The deal only lasted 1 year. And what they were doing was basically checking out the betting lines during each round of the fight in accordance with the outcomes to see if there was any funny business going on. And they decided after a whole year of doing this and not finding another infraction that it's okay. We don't really need this company around to safeguard us anymore and the integrity of our sport. And while this was going on, the UFC was in a multi-million-dollar deal with the company DraftKings, and they're constantly shoving this company and their brand image in our faces during the events. At the commentary panels with the analysts, we're seeing Jon Anik with DC and Chael Sonnen, and they're not fighters that are active in the roster, but they're so closely related to the fighters, and they interview the fighters. And in the event of DC, he's closely related to American Kickboxing Association, which houses the champion Islam Makhachev at it. It doesn't really seem like there's much sense for him to be talking about sports betting. Because whenever we're dealing with characters like Jon Anik, who is constantly working the announcement table, or Daniel Cormier, or Chael Sonnen, who has been known to interview fighters as well, they're too closely intertwined with the happenings of the UFC to be this third party that can talk about sports betting, in my opinion at least. And we could also highlight other instances of fighters who came into a fight week heavily injured. We could talk about O'Malley. We could talk about Pereira. We could talk about Dillashaw, just to name three of them. Dillashaw only had one arm going into his title defense with Aljamain Sterling. He thought that he was doing the honorable thing and not holding up the division and fighting anyways, but he just fed Aljamain Sterling a free title defense. Sean O'Malley, same deal. There was a chance that he still could have won that Merab fight, but he had a torn labrum and couldn't wrestle for weeks heading into the fight. What do you think was going to happen? Both of those fighters come from gyms where they train with people, and people see them moving weird because of their injuries, and they know that they're hurt as they're disseminating the information to their coaches and other fighters in the gym. Is there any chance that one of these people who's not a direct UFC affiliate, or even a family member of one of these fighters who knows the physical condition of them going into some of the biggest fights of their lives, wouldn't try to cash out on some inside information that they did have? How do you even monitor that? Alex Pereira fought with a broken hand and norovirus against Magomed Ankalaev, and if that were true, I'm not sure how large Tahara MMA in Connecticut is, but do you really think that one of those guys wouldn't have told their brother's, friend's, uncle's, dog's, cousin, maybe we should put $50 on a Magomed decision? And $50 is an understatement because these guys are getting caught up for making a bunch of money. At least James Krause did. He was betting on like every single event, and he was turning profits on a lot of them. And my question is, did he really deserve to catch the full brunt of this hammer of justice? As we have dudes who have podcasts like Show Me the Money, where it's Renato Moicano, Gilbert Burns, and Matty Betts, a dude who has bets in his name. And Renato Moicano got a short notice title shot against the greatest modern lightweight ever, arguably. Do you not think that Matty Betts made an insider bet against his boy Renato Moicano as they had private discussions behind closed doors, and Renato Moicano was just happy to receive a payday? Do you not think that it's possible that Renato Moicano had his friends, cousins, uncles, dog's nephew place a few bucks on his opponent and wire it to him in one of these Swiss offshore accounts? Is the problem that they're actually helping people make money so that DraftKings can't monopolize the process of getting young and impressionable men to throw their hard-earned dollars away listening to Minty Betts or Yanni the Greek? This is just food for thought, my people. And importance is being placed on the love of money over the love of the sport. If you're here right now, there's a good chance that you're a Zoomer man, or you're a guy within the grouping of 25 to 30 something, based off of the demographics again, and you really like MMA because you're following BeewolfMMA, and that is one of the most hardcore things that you can do as a fan of this sport. But if you are a young man like myself, I'm a 22-year-old Zoomer man. I don't have a community. I've left school and I got a degree in journalism, so I don't have the ability to get a high-paying job that can support a family or get me property. So what do? I spend my money on stupid shit. I buy shoes. I buy clothes. I buy Red Bulls. If you're living an active addiction, you buy whatever your vice is. And this is just another vice here. Young men, they see the promise of being able to win $200 off of a $5 entry fee that they would pay to make a bet that they know will cash, and this gets the ball rolling. This dopamine dump that they gave it to you for free the first time. This is like a trapper giving you a tester as soon as he cooks up some new white. And once they get that little taste of, oh my god, I just made $15 betting on Gerald Meerschaert, fans, they can't stop chasing it. They want it over and over again. And you know what they do? They make the process of watching these fights on Saturdays so much more stressful for themselves than it really needs to be. Because at the end of the day, this is all driven by passion. We love watching fights. We love watching people get knocked the fuck out. And that's what's driving this whole thing along. At least for me. Since I got into it, that's the only thing that I've cared about. Making a few bucks is nice, but imagine if I don't make a few bucks that night, and it's even a great event. Am I just not gonna have fun because I didn't hit on any of my parlays? I feel like you're robbing yourself of the joy that made you a fan of MMA to begin with. We fall victim to this gooner bait. They use women to platform these bets. They either have a female mouthpiece like Minty on the screen telling you, bet on this person, bet against that person, spend money here. Or the fighters themselves get these BBL bandits to put on some really skimpy swimsuits, and they take photos wearing the merchandise of the betting websites. And they're like, yes, you should spend your money here. And me as a young, impressionable man, I'm going to see that, and I'm going to see Alexa Grasso wearing the steak t-shirt, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe if I make enough money, I can get Alexa Grasso to come and give me a lap dance while I throw a $10 bill. But what's resulted in this is, one, people making the dumbest parlays with a dream of maybe one time I will hit on one of these and it will change my fucking life. So what we see happen is people will put together these parlays, maybe some good picks, right? And this one that I have here, Reyes Dominic over Nikita Krylov. Nobody really saw that one coming the way that it did, but that's not a bad bet in retrospect, right? But look at the rest of this. Bryce Mitchell over Gene Silva, Patricio Freire over Yair Rodriguez, Michael Chandler over Paddy Pimblett. I mean, Volkanovski over Lopez, like, that was actually kind of big brain too. But, bro, Pitbull over Yair Rodriguez. That guy really thought he was going to change his life with this one. And you know what he did? He lost $1. And it's just $1 in this instance, right? But what about the same guy who makes these level of IQ bets thinking that, oh my God, this is going to be it. I'm going to retire my parents. And they put $50 on it. Oh, I just lost $50. You know, I'm a working man. It's fine. Let me just put $50 on an even more impossible odds parlay next week. And they don't hit again. Damn. $100 in the hole. But you know what? If I hit on this next one, it's going to be like 20 bands. So they keep on doing it. They keep on chasing it. And then at the very end of things, they've lost thousands of dollars. And they look like the guy in the GTA Online casino that's just constantly sitting by the chips table, has nothing. And aside from this, since they know that this is such a marketable industry, the advertisement and the recurrent appearance of the steak emblem, it's just starting to get me upset at this point. And I know that Max Holloway probably has a deal with the Kick platform that he streams on, but part of this deal is that he constantly has to promote steak. And it doesn't entirely make a whole lot of sense just because, like, he's not even allowed to gamble on this website. So it's like me, right? I'm an alcoholic in recovery, and I haven't had a beer since I got sober in like 10 years ago. I'm just speaking it in like a hypothetical, right? And then I start advertising Bud Light, and I'm like, wow, like this is amazing stuff, and you should be using it. As like a personal concern, one, I just don't really like how I can't make predictions without people being like, oh yeah, post your card. I want to see if you like what your bets are looking like. I'm not betting on these fights, dude, because I know that I'm just gonna lose ultimately. You can't ever stay ahead of this unless you're going for like the locks, but those don't even pay anything. Minus 205, minus 465. You have to spend $465 on the favorite in order to make $100. Why would you even do that? It's not even worth. That's literally worth nothing. $50 gets you $10 in that instance, and then there's the risk of a freak upset happening, and you just lose that money. And all you stood to gain was just half an hour at your job. And then I have to think about what I'm going to do if this ends up popping and then I have the prospects of taking a sponsorship from one of these websites. I don't really want to, because I know that I'm not going to be doing a net positive for my community. If you guys are like me and can be influenced, I'm not above it. Early on into consuming MMA media, if the right person had told me, you know, this is how I'm betting and like you should probably do it too, I might have listened to him. I know what it is now, so I likely won't ever fall into that trap, but I don't want to help other people get this ball rolling. I'm no better than a guy who's serving H in my community at that point. I'm no better than a guy who reposts clips of corn on a Twitter account and gets people to goon all day and accomplish nothing and just goon. So again, like, I'm not your pappy. I can't control what you do. I can't reprimand you to the point where, like, I can't be like, give me your phone, and you give me your phone and I ground you, or like go to your room. I can't do any of that. I can't tell you how to live. I would never even want to do that anyways, but sometimes we're so focused on the cheese that we forget to see the trap. We see sports betting babe. We see the woman who works with a team of other bettors, and she's just the front person just because she has a really nice face and rack. She gets on Instagram every day and she's like, yeah, don't bet on Paulo Costa. And there's confirmation bias that gets reaffirmed whenever she's getting takes fed to her from some larger conglomerate, and those guys might actually be cooking a little bit. But her image, that's gonna sell it. That's gonna make us all convinced that, like, yeah, I'm definitely, like, in the right here. And I'm so confident because she agrees with whatever take I had, or she's making such great points, that, you know, I'm gonna put some money on this one. I'm just gonna go for it because she's gonna go for it. But what people don't acknowledge is that the guys who are attached with these betting sites, Minty Bets, for example, right? There was that one stream, the clip is playing right there over and over again. This was on Blanchfield versus Barber, the greatest fight card that we've ever seen in our lives, right? Minty Bets, she was reading from a teleprompter, and the teleprompter didn't update in time for her to give her official predictions on Reese versus Todorovic, and she just stopped. She didn't know what she was saying because nobody was there to tell her what to say. These guys, they're figureheads for whoever owns them, whatever company owns them. XQC, he's spending $2.6 billion of his company's money, because he works for Kick. Stake is funding Kick. So whenever he spends their dollars and they give him money, he loses it to the same company that pays him. So it's just this revolving door of cash that doesn't belong to them, end up trickling down into their pockets still. Whatever they win, they may get to keep. But it's their employer who's giving them the funds to gamble with. And whenever they lose, they're losing to their employer who is paying them for doing work that this is. It's the same deal with Drake and the Stake stuff. Stake, they sponsor Drake. Drake is super close with Aiden Ross like this. He'll put 500k on Israel Adesanya to win against Nasruddin Imavov. He'll put 500k on Justin Gaethje to win against Charles Oliveira. And he'll lose that money. He'll lose his ass off. But does it really matter to him? No. Because he'll just get reimbursed for that same cash because it goes to the same place that gave him the money to bet with in the first place. It's just the exposure. These companies benefit more from Drake placing bets that don't hit so that people can make fun of him online and go viral for reproducing that content than if he were to have a successful winning rate. Because then there would be no joke. He would just no ball. So just remember, the house always wins. A good reminder of this is whenever we're dealing with gamblers like Togi. His content is funny to me. I'm not even going to lie to you. He'll lose a lot. And that's without fixed odds. There's also theories that XQC is fixing odds in these games. And there's no way to fix odds with UFC fights. There's just only way to guarantee that you don't lose money if you're one of these people. So my brothers, we must rise above. Do not get gamed out here. Young Beewolf loves and appreciates you. And so he wants to make you privy to the traps that you may run across and fall over. The Viet Cong punji stick traps that are covered in excrement, that are patched over the soft dirt with a palm tree leaf that you may just step right over. It's not like this is uncurable, but we must accept betting is an addiction. The same way that hitting the guava lychee is an addiction. Or the same way that going on to XX and X is. I love you guys, and I want better for all of us. I also don't want anybody to judge my predictions anymore. Fuck.